Anong kagandahan sa araw, Doy?
Ano po? Walang PLN members. I-appointed. Nag-concentrate. Hindi lang sa TV. Natin i-raise yung division. Pwede na to, no? Please learn of step. Isa sa pagdiri mo na naman dati yung pinanapit. Yung total. Na ginanap dito sa campus yung kaya nag-sa energy. Kaya di ko city ko lang. Ito na pagkalo ng mga distributors. Ang nagbuang aktividad. Ito programa na lang tanong, no? Meron na aktividad, no? Ano yung programa? Ay hatid sa inyo ng budget sa akin. Pero kadto ko, pag meron din badila. Ano ba to? Knowledge to, di mo? Tayo. Ano yan? Ano yan? Saan ka na yan? Ano yun?
Hindi ko alam to ba? Point allocation.
So wala natin.
Oo. Yan ang sinabi. Walang bayad yan. Public hearing of the Committee on Economic Affairs. Public hearing for Economic Affairs. This is it.
Have these measures, have these bills ever been heard in a committee, COMSEC? Have these measures, have these bills ever been heard in a committee? COMSEC? Where is my COMSEC? Yes. Have these ever been heard in a committee? It's not yet. The first in the history.
Yung kapag kunyari take out ka, dito na yung dining ka lang. Tutunog sa mga baby. Yung nakakawis Jollibee ka. Night to wait. Siguro mo drink yung ano lang, yung mga halagang sandal lang kasi mamili. Sikat sa social media. Guys, ulitin mo pala yung babayaran ko kayo. Kalimutan pa kita. Bakit ako daw? May mukha sa akin.
Assalamualaikum. Magandang tanghali po sa inyong lahat.
Sir, may opening statement kayo or we can ask questions?
Wala naman po akong statement.
Sir, ano lang sa akin muna, sir. Sir, maybe get up.
6 na taon. At nakita natin yan, ma'am, no? Meron na tayong pwedeng balikan dyan. Nung panahon ni GMA. Nung panahon ni GMA, kasi nung panahon niya, siya ay nag-assume ng presidency nagkaroon siya ng 4 years. Tapos nagkaroon siya ng election. Hindi re-election yun kasi tumakbo siya. Nagkaroon siya ng another 6 years. Pag binalikan natin ang history, ma'am, makikita natin na ang pinakamataas nating economic progress yung panahon niya. Bakit? Kasi may continuity. Yung mahalaga talaga yung continuity. At ito naman, yung panahon naman, Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte, nakita naman natin na napakaganda at ang makapagpapatunay na ay yung survey ng kaumbayan na napakataas ng survey na nagkaroon naman si Pangulong Duterte ng 2 taon na nakulong siya sa pandemic. Hindi siya masyadong nakagalaw. Tapos patapos na yung termino niya. So hindi tuloy, para sa akin nagkaroon ng lahat ng ng datos ang makakapagpatunay na napakahalaga ng re-election.
Sir, last na po sa akin, but on another topic na sir. Sir, you're pushing for death penalty.
Yes, ma'am. Isa po yan sa ating gusto natin maamentahan din ng konstitusyon at pasungkol po dyan. Kasi nasubukan na rin natin ng ilang taon na wala tayong death penalty. Ang nangyayari sa atin, puro na lang tayo salita. Puro tayo samahan ng loob. Puro tayo gigil. Eh heart attack tayo, pareho-pareho. Magkakaroon na lang tayo ng high blood, pareho-pareho. Dahil sa ngayon, ang mga nai-involved na ngayon, hindi na lang basta kriminal. Hindi na lang matatawag natin basta underground o organized crime. Ang nai-involved ngayon sa gun for hire, sa drugs, smuggling, mga law enforcement.
Police, sir.
Medyo palagay ko, ma'am, ako naman pagdating sa civilian, totoo lang, ako okay lang dyan na walang death penalty. Hindi ako dyan, pagdating sa civilian. Para sa akin, doon sa mga nasa law enforcement, mapasok ka sa ganyan, gun for hire, murder, drugs, treason yan. Pagkataksil yan. Hindi yan po pwedeng hindi maging death penalty. Dahil mismo sa ilalim ng kanilang organisasyon, ang treason ay punishable by death. Ito, balinaw na treason ito. Tandaan po natin, pinasisweldo natin yung mga yan. Binigyan mo ng edukasyon, binigyan mo ng lahat. Tapos sila ma-involve sa ganyan. Parang ang lako. Yung ating mga tagaligtas at tagapagtanggol, sila na ngayon ang wala po. Kailangan talaga, ma'am, meron tayong matibay na batas. Pagdating na. Pamusa.
Sir, you're talking about itong nakaraang hearing where policemen are involved in the cover-up of 990 kilos po.
Hindi lang po yun, pati po yung kay Governor Picamo na ang mga na-involved po mga dating militar. At sa aming pagdinig doon, pati yung mga kapulisan doon kasama na doon sa alam nyo, pag hindi natin ito hinarap, saan na papunta yung bayan natin? Mga mahal kong kamulan. Sino ba tatakbuhan natin? Saka, pag tinanglan natin ang isang bansa, lahat, kapitbahay natin, tingnan natin mabuti. Bago sila naging progresibo, ano muna yung inayos nila? Law and order. Hanggat wala tayong law and order dito sa bansa natin, naglolokohan lang tayo. Huwag na natin lokohin yung mga taong bayan. Nako.
Sir, bakit law enforcers lang yung tinitignan natin considering na ang higpit din ng issue ng corruption sa government with respect to civilian naman to, sir?
Kasi po ma'am, yung akin po, ako kasi ebidensya sa akin. Napakaaga po pa dito sa kailan lamang po ako pumasok sa gobyerno, isang taon pa lang. Kumbaga, masyado pang musmus ang kaalaman ko sa corruption. Ayokong maging parang chismoso lang dito. Gusto ko, pag ako ay nag-file niyan, meron akong sapat na ebidensya. Ayokong maging chismoso lang. Dito sa law enforcement kasi ma'am, kita-kita natin nasa video. Nasa video, ma'am. Wala na tayo kung kailangan pang pruweba. Parehong nasa video, yung diga mo, may video. Itong sa drugs, may video. Yung smuggling, doon ako sa hearing, ma'am. Yung mga kaso, pinapile nila ng mahina para ma-dismiss sa DOJ. Eh, binababa nila yung yung preso, kasi pag may nahuli, binababa nila yung halaga para bumaba yung sentensya, hindi bumagsak sa economic sabotage. Malinaw.
Pero sir,
Pero pagdating sa corruption, ma'am, ang bata ko pa, siguro mas maraming senador dito na mas alam na nila yung sistema ng corruption sa loob ng gobyerno. Para sila dapat ang mag-file doon. Ako kasi parang ano ba, parang hindi ka panipaniwala kapag nag-file ako nun. Dahil pag dumating yan, diyan sa plenary hall, baka hindi ko siya maipagtanggol. Ang nangyari lang sa akin, parang yung nangyari kay kaibigan nating Senator Manny Pacquiao. Nung nilabas niya yan, hindi din siya nakapagbigay ng mga ebidensya. Ayaw ko nun. Ayaw ko maging gano'n.
sir, kahit na maraming incidents din ang nakikita sa video, kagaya po nung sa airport, naalala nyo yung foreigner na ninakawan ng gamit. Tapos yung iba't iba pa sa customs, nakikita yung mga padulas doon. Sa tingin po ninyo, kulang pa rin yung nakikita nyo tsaka kaalaman nyo para i-consider yun. Kasi parang, naisip ko lang sir, kung talagang gusto natin na linisin yung gobyerno, dapat both uniform and civilian yung tinitignan natin.
Hindi, tama po yun. Kaya lang, magkaiba po kasi ang bigat ng sibilyan. Ang sibilyan, wala niyang sinumpaan sa pulis. Ano yan malayo doon sa mga nanumpa ng tungkulin. Parang paghambingin mo sila, pagtabihin mo sila, eto, pwede ba ako maawa sa sibilyan? Okay, sige, maintindihan kita. Pero itong isa, na binigyan ka lahat ng edukasyon, binigyan ka ng tamang alituntunin, ng ideolohiya, naligaw ka ng landas, malabo ako mapatawad ka. Isa pa dyan, ma'am, pag sinabi natin korupsyon sa gobyerno, ay huwag natin titingnan dyan yung nasa mababa lang. Kapag tinignan natin ang korupsyon sa gobyerno, tingnan natin yung mula sa itaas hanggang pababa. So, yan ang ano natin. Huwag natin targetin yung kumuha lang ng para sa akin. Hindi korupsyon yun. Makati naman kami. Sa akin kasi may korupsyon na mas matindi na hindi ko pa. Ang hirap asumin ng isang bagay ng superficial pa lang yung nakikita. Ano ba, isang taon pa lang ako So, sinundan ko din naman yung panahon ni Senator Manny Pacquiao. Sinundan ko yun tinignan ko talaga ayoko na gusto ko pag ito, pinasok ko itong ganito. Kaya ko ito labanan sa plenaryo. Kailangan ko, kaya kong tayuan doon. At ang kaya ko lang tayuan ngayon, yung nakita ko ng mata ko. Nakita ko talaga sa video At then nakita ko, at mapapatunayan ko na kailangan na natin ng death penalty dito pagdating sa usapin ng law enforcement.
Sir, you've been attending yung mga hearings nga dyan sa 990 kilos ng shabu. Si Senator Bato de la Rosa, sabi po niya, hindi pa daw off the hook si former PNP Chief Azurin. Do you agree with him, sir? Based dun
Siyempre
sa
po,
mga
ano po
hearings.
sabihin, ma'am, ni Senator Bato, kung alam ko nasusundan din nyo kami, diba? Napapansin niyo po, pagdating dyan sa hearing, si Senator Bato, hindi ako masyadong hindi na natin pumapapil. Kasi bilang respeto kay General Bato, kasi siya ang dating PNP chief. Kung merong nakakaalam ng patungkol sa PNP, siya yun. Kaya kung mapapansin niyo ma'am, lahat ng move ni Senator Bato, yun lang ang sinusundan ko. Kung meron siyang gusto pa contempt, sinusundan ko, I move. Nasabi ko sa kanya. So, kung titingnan ko rin, ako wala pa naman ako talagang ako sa sarili ko, pinakontempt eh. Lahat naman na-contempt ko, utos ni Bato. Totoo ma'am, hindi ako naniniwala dun sa mga nakakulong dyan. Ibig ko sabihin, doon sa usapin na i-contempt natin at ikukulong lang natin dyan sa aircon at pakakainin pa natin, hindi ako naniniwala dun. Kasi tagal kong namulungan, ma'am. 3 taon na kahati ako sa kulungan. Yung totoong kulungan. Kasi yan, tawag ko dyan, hindi naman totoong kulungan yan. Parang model lang yun eh. Kung ako ang tatanungin mo ng personal, kaya ako gigil na gigil nung isang araw pa. At hindi ko tinitigilan si SP. Na sinasabi ko talaga kay SP na kailangan SP, meron tayong talagang matibay na hawak-hawak na sinasabi ng batas kung paano natin pamuhusahan itong mga sinungaling nito. Kasi hindi ako, parang wala yan. Yan, ganyan, yung detention na yan, ang sarap ng buhay niya. Hindi ako talaga, sa totoo lang, ako, sumusunod lang ako kay Bato.
Sir, nabanggit niyo po yun nga pong sinabi niyo kay SP. Ang sabi po niya, pwede naman daw mag-file ng cases nga daw po talaga against those. Sir, are you considering na kayo mismo, given na yung mga naririnig niyo, sabi niyo nagsisinungaling sila and all, given all those, sir, kayo ba, you are considering na kayo mismo mag-file ng kaso against them?
Yes, ma'am. Ang problema, noong sinabi ni SP hindi na kami nagpahinga ng aming legal team. Tingnan namin kung ano yung batas sa perjury. Maning-mani yung ano eh. Yung parusa mo, nakakatawa lang yung parusa, ang kiliti. Kaya kami, yung aking legal team, nakipag-ugnayan kami uli kay SP kahapon. Kailangan tayo makagawa ng ng bagong panukala na magbibigay ng tahusa talaga. Kasi yung ang nangyari dyan kasi ma'am, meron ng inamenda doon sa panahon ni Senator Gordon. Nung binasa namin, hindi ako masaya doon sa parusa.
Plays a pivotal role in ensuring that these natural resources are harnessed for the country's ecological and biological diversity and sustained economic development. Natural capital accounting is also a powerful tool for disaster risk reduction and management, from preparation, prevention, response, planning, and a trajectory towards a green and blue economy. Natural capital accounting will provide real insight for planning and financial decisions, such as reforming incentives, mobilizing new types of finance, and mainstreaming green investments and policies because of its ability to integrate environmental, social, and economic information and assess the trade-offs that need to be made. The PENCAS will provide the opportunity to operationalize the integrated water resources management system as well, which Executive Order Number 22, Series of 2023, issued by the President, creating the WRMO and the DNR aims to achieve. PENCAS can provide information on the physical flows of water within the economy,
The first in the
the
history.
economy and the environment, the stocks of water assets and changes to these stocks, economic activity, and transactions related to water resources. This can help policymakers design better policies on water allocation and pricing strategies more in line with the ability to pay, and can inform where targeted investments in water infrastructure can generate the largest impact on the economy. Institutionalizing the PENCAS through these bills serves as a core means of achieving biodiversity, climate, sustainable development goals, and green recovery agenda in coherent ways. These legislative measures will provide a comprehensive data framework for the generation of natural capital statistics and accounts towards their progressive integration in macroeconomic indicators, and provide tools and measures to contribute to the protection, conservation, restoration, regeneration, and resiliency of ecosystems. The department proposes that the PENCAS establish clear concepts, definitions, and classifications of ecosystem services and their components to be able to establish innovative payment schemes for ecological services. This can strengthen climate resilience and address biodiversity loss by encouraging local governments and the private sector to reward people's efforts to conserve vital ecosystem services. Developing the natural capital
Statisticians
accounting
and
system is a process that can
economists,
link
with social
multiple
and natural
stakeholders and data
scientists, remote
providers.
sensing and artificial intelligence experts, and
Statisticians and
communities themselves
economists
that
with
may be
social and
engaged in
natural
citizen
scientists,
science.
remote sensing and
This
artificial
transdisciplinary
intelligence
structure
experts, and
will enhance
communities
and bridge
themselves that
information
may
for
be
decision
engaged.
makers in the public and private sectors. It can inform decision making with respect to incentives, finance, and national and local policy coherence, and support the monitoring, evaluation, and learning from the implementation of these policies and programs. The transdisciplinarity and integrated framework of the PENCAS would provide a systems perspective to risk based decision making, provide a common reference from which different agencies may locate their mandates, identify opportunities for collaboration and synergy, and track their performance. Aligned with the department's mandates and the roadmap to institutionalize the natural capital accounting in the Philippines, the department has identified significant actions it will undertake to support PENCAS. First, it will lead in establishing site specific and area based ecosystem accounts. This involves collecting and analyzing data on ecosystem characteristics, functions, and services at specific locations. The data collected will be provided to the PSA, ensuring their availability for national level analysis and decision making. Secondly, we will establish the National Geospatial Database for Natural Resources, which is already underway, as a key reference to natural capital accounting. Thirdly, we will promote the understanding that the natural environment, biodiversity, and ecosystem services are valuable opportunities, provide benefits and assets rather than just mere backdrops for absorbing impacts. Fourth, we will ensure the wide availability of tools, methods, and skills for ecosystem accounting that enable the accurate, comprehensive, and reliable valuation of ecosystem services, covering provisioning, regulating, cultural, and aesthetic values. In cooperation with the Philippine Space Agency and other space agencies, as well as spatial data providers, we aim to optimize the utilization of both ground and space-based monitoring that advances the use of remote sensing, geographic information systems, the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, among others, in establishing the baseline conditions of ecosystems and in building capacity for change detection and other forms of analytics. In order to effectively fulfill this responsibility, the department earnestly appeals for the allocation of additional budgetary support to the PSA and the DNR. This additional support is important to undertake essential tasks of researching, identifying, observing, monitoring, and analyzing the physical basis for each of the natural capital accounts. The allocated budget is specifically dedicated to acquiring the necessary technology and engaging human resources, as well as monitoring new initiatives designed to advance these endeavors. Through the department's program on establishing the National Geospatial Database for Natural Resources, the following initiatives are already being undertaken. We are building a national clearinghouse for private sector reforestation efforts as well as public sector reforestation efforts and mapping the intersection of key biodiversity areas, government-owned lands, and barren lands within protection. forests. We are identifying, quantifying, and securing our remaining large water resources for government to develop through strategic partnerships. Thirdly,
Hindi niya
we
sinabi,
are
kaya nga,
identifying
kaya
mineral
nga natuloy.
resources that can be optimized and further explored. The department commends the provision in the proposed bills regarding the establishing of a dedicated unit to carry out these responsibilities, allocating sufficient budgetary resources to meet the necessary requirements for human resources, experts, tools, and technologies will be indispensable for the effective implementation of the PENCAS. The institutionalization of the PENCAS represents a very significant step towards harnessing the benefits of nature and safeguarding its invaluable services for present and future generations. By integrating the values of nature into policy, planning, and financial decisions, PENCAS promotes a more calibrated and sustainable approach to inclusive and climate disaster resilient development. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Oo.
That's where very well said. It might as well be included in my sponsorship speech in plenary. And I want you to be there to assist me in answering all the questions, because what Secretary Loizaga VNR mentioned is already very clearly the justification of why it's so important. Let me just add, so thank you for that, Tony. So, why is this so important? Economic management and policy making. When we institutionalize PENCAS, it will allow government to measure environmental inputs and outputs, which information is vital for economic management and policy making. And by assigning economic value to the various services provided by ecosystems such as clean water, air purification, carbon sequestration, flood regulation, we can highlight the importance of conserving and properly managing our natural resources. So, simply put, the term that you said, we measure what we treasure. At Tagalogin ko pa, simple. Hindi natin kaya protektahan ang hindi natin alam na nandyan.
Kukuha ng dahon ng bayabas.
Diba? Sinusukat mo or meron kang listahan ng ari-arian mo. Kung merong sa bangko, savings, kung merong kang nasa pitaka mo na pera,
Pagkatapos wala. Walang tila-tila doon.
kung merong kang
Uy, sasabihin mo.
namanay lupa or merong kang hinuhulugan. So, importante ang ating yaman, ang ating likas yaman ay parte ng ating yaman.
Kaya yung mga
That is
yun,
why
hindi nila hinila ng
I
ayos.
always say this. We are not a poor nation. We are one of the wealthiest nations in the world in terms of our biodiversity, in terms of our natural wealth, and our natural capital. That is why whoever says we are poor does not understand the concept of the blue and the green economy and does not understand PENCAS. That is the reason I am passionate about enacting this into law and also educating our DepEd students, our
Mas masakit pa yung karayo. Kaysa sa pagtuli.
students, our kababayans everywhere, including government officials, to understand the import of this. So,
Yung bata-bata pa.
sustainable development and planning. When we incorporate PENCA into our development process, so we can, Tony said this, I'll just have to reiterate it, we will now make informed decisions. Kasi, okay, infrastructure we build, but no, if we build the infrastructure but we cut the mountain and we have to deforest the whole mountain, then what will ensue? Soil erosion and the floods that will come after that. To be measured, the impact on the low-lying communities. So all of these have to be measured.
Oh, maganda yung ban.
We have
Maganda
to
yung
balance
parang
economic
ginibitan niya.
growth and
Maganda
environmental
yung ban ba?
sustainability,
Wala ng forma.
thereby promoting sustainable development. So if we
Okay,
consider
Sergeant.
the impacts of development projects on our ecosystems and natural resources, then the government can assess the trade-offs and identify opportunities for sustainable development. This can contribute to clearer policies and regulations that promote responsible resource management and minimize, if not totally eradicate, environmental degradation. Now, this will bring about, I think you mentioned it, investments, green investments, international funding, and collaboration. So, our national capital accounting can strengthen our case for international funding and collaboration by demonstrating the value of our natural resources and ecosystems. Then we will attract not just money, but also technical assistance, partnerships to implement conservation and sustainable development projects, financial support, such as the global
Marami na nagpapatuli.
carbon credit market designed to help countries and corporations that are carbon neutral or carbon negative to get compensation from countries that are carbon positive. So, conservation and biodiversity protection, it goes without saying. So, as I said, we are so rich in biodiversity, in our unique and diverse ecosystems. So the valuation of these ecosystems should highlight the importance of conserving these natural resources and provide a basis for developing policies and strategies to restore these ecosystems which may have been lost, which are degraded, which are on the brink of getting lost and dying, which will impact. So climate change mitigation adaptation, I'll hear Robert later. Okay, so PENCAS can also help in quantifying the carbon sequestration of our forests, of our wetlands, and our ecosystems. So it can contribute to our mitigation efforts, and even, yes, if we're 1/3 of 1%, we still must mitigate as a function of adaptation. But it can also help in identifying and assessing our nature-based solutions for adaptation, coastal restoration, reforestation. Now, building resilience is another. So we just had Mawar. I'm glad that Betty did not impact so bad, at least in Metro Manila, but it also affected northern Luzon. So as a country vulnerable to these natural hazards, so PENCAS will help us more in disaster risk reduction strategies to assess the protective role of our ecosystems, our mangroves, and our wetlands. So this will mitigate the impact of disasters. This will enhance the ability of our ecosystems to withstand weather or climate-related disturbances and provide critical support to our local communities. Then our LGUs can have their local ordinances for PENCAS, right? Sustainable livelihoods. What is the impact? Ano bang, bakit pa kailangan yan? DTI, DOLE, ba't ba kailangan DA? Mahalaga ito. As a developing country, we rely everything on our natural resources for our livelihood.
agriculture, forestry, fisheries. Yeah, BIFAR is here. I would have wanted Yusek Mercy to be here because she was a NEDA handling PENCAS before. Now she's with the DA. So next time we invite Yusek Mercy Sumbilio. So if we institute PENCAS in DA, in fisheries, we can understand the linkages between the ecosystems and livelihood of our fisher folks, to identify their best practices in sustainable development and promote the equitable distribution of benefits derived from our natural resources. Tourism. I would like to invite as well Sec Christina Frasco. Let's invite them because this will impact on sustainable tourism. We are so many popular destinations, not just those you see on calendars or Instagram, but so many hidden gems for our natural beauty. So we can contribute to sustainable tourism development when we value our ecosystems in attracting visitors and our local livelihoods. And when we attract tourists, both domestic and foreign, sabi mo na, sa ilan ang nipas natin? 100, how many nipas do we have? 114? Total NIPAS areas, no, declared by law, 114. No, NIPAS, INIPAS, total 114 legislated. No, 94 yung bago. Yung dati, 13. So 94 plus 13 is 100. 107. So ang legislated 107, but perhaps what Secretary Saga's mentioning at 200 plus, those that are ready to be enacted. No, ang legislated is only 107. Yes. Can you check that? By legislation, protected areas were legislated. They were very slow. Only 13, 1-3. Only 94 plus 113. Because that's the reason, and I have to explain this. Legislation was so slow, 13 lang. And I've been here 4 terms. So on my 3rd term, I decided to put the 94 together, which was questioned by some, but we persisted with the DNR. I think Mundita was in charge then, Yusek Te, sila Jonas, andyan ba sila? Alam nila yon. At the time, the hearing was held here and people were questioning, dapat isa-isa to, isa-isa, maski 100 termino na ako sa Senado at ilang generasyon, ilan. Imagine, from the beginning of time that institution was established, only 1313 protected areas were enacted. If we did it tingi isa-isa, no, that's why we had 94 together. And then the rest, the 200 plus you're mentioning, minus the 107, if they're ready for enactment, we will be happy to author it and sponsor it. Okay, so I just mentioned some of the important aspects of our life where PENCAS or measuring our natural capital is important. At this point, I would like to hear from the climate, but we recognize Yusek Tan-Uy, who will speak later after the Climate Change Commission. Yes. Vice Chair Borja, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The Climate Change Commission expresses its strong and principled support to the draft bills establishing the PENCAS, a valuable tool that will complement the comprehensive set of policies and institutions to address the triple threat of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution using a whole-of-government approach. The CCC views the PENCAS as long overdue and thus to be considered as an urgent bill. The Climate Change Commission takes to heart the pronouncement of the Honorable Chair and expresses appreciation for her continuing leadership on climate change and environmental stewardship, and for reminding us of the urgency of the collective work at hand. PANCAS will provide the foundation for precise and transparent policy and management decision-making in environment and natural resources management. It can also provide a compelling basis for more targeted investment on programs that will promote a healthy environment, sustainable ecosystem services, and resilient people. The latest sixth assessment report of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, points out that effective climate action must recognize the interdependence of climate, ecosystems, and biodiversity and human societies, the value of diverse forms of knowledge, and the close linkages between climate change, adaptation, mitigation, ecosystem health, human well-being, and sustainable development. Madam Chair, the objectives of the PANCAS bill align with the strategic priorities set by the country's national frameworks on climate change adaptation and mitigation, including the National Climate Change Action Plan under the pillar of environmental and ecological stability. The PANCAS stands to provide a robust foundation for the Philippines' access to external support, or the means of implementation under the Paris Agreement, as the country endeavors to undertake equitable adaptation strategies with mitigation co-benefits. The proposed measures are deemed vital since they will also reinforce the development planning of the National Adaptation Plan and the Nationally Determined Contribution Implementation Plan by pursuing an ecosystem accounting that includes losses and damages from natural hazards and an inventory of emission sources and removals, including their monetary value. Again, the CCC reiterates its strong and principled support to the PANCAS bills as they seek to reinforce the implementation of the Philippine Development Plan 2023-2028 on Chapter 15, Accelerating Climate Action and Strengthen Disaster Resilience. The bills are envisioned to generate accounts and data sets that will better inform policy, planning, and programming toward increasing resiliency, attaining a balance between economic development and managing natural resources, and accelerating transformative climate change adaptation and mitigation. The CCC, Madam Chair, hopes that the passing of the bills into law will lead to a systematic and timely accounting of the Philippines' natural resources. And yes, as you have very well said, what is at stake here, Madam Chair, are the lives, the livelihood, and the future, not just of our nation, but of the entire world. In Filipino, buhay, kabuhayan at kinabukasan nating lahat ang nakataya. For specific inputs, we'd like to forward the following. Natural capital units. The PENCAS bills may consider agencies with specific mandates in the management over the productive aspects of the resources shall have national capital units. Pursuant to Executive Order 174, the CCC is the overall lead in the implementation of the Philippine Greenhouse Gas Inventory Management and Reporting System. On valuation of natural capital accounts, while the proposed bills mandate the establishment of natural capital accounts by national capital units, the responsibility of providing valuation to such accounts should also be clearly established, as natural resources inventory and accounting and valuation require different specialized competencies. Third, on role of local government units, LGUs will play a critical role in data collection, and data acquisition for the PANCAS should be systematized for consistency across time, since data on ecosystem services may be used for comparison across time and space. Fourth, for open data, an open data system may be considered as part of the provisions based on the Philippine experience. Inability to access data, even from government agencies, has been a major obstacle for the scientific community to optimize the use in conducting studies and research. And fifth, monitoring, evaluation, and reporting. The envisioned outputs of the PANCAS will strengthen the baseline setting, monitoring, evaluation, and reporting of climate information. These will also serve as inputs to the updating of climate-related programs, which include those committed under the NDC. Moving forward, the system can be managed to collectively identify indicators, track progress, and measure the achievement of targets, results, impacts, and outcomes. PANCAS, Madam Chair, we believe provides the framework for assigned values to ecosystem services as concrete costs for support under the Paris Agreement to include for long-term investment. This will also quantify possible loss and damage in terms of biodiversity loss and the cost to restore it. Under PENCAS, we have evidence for our claim for support, even critical baselines, to pursue development beyond 2050. And this is why my Commission is fully behind these bills, again, because lives, livelihood, and our future at stake. So, maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Sec Borge. Yes, Yusek Tan Uy, may we hear from NEDA, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. We understand and fully support the bills that are being deliberated today. We note that, of course, PENCAS will institutionalize natural capital accounting to ascribe economic values to our environment and natural resources. And we note that it's one of the priority legislative agenda under Chapter 15 of the PDP 2023 to 2028. And it's also included in the Common Legislative Agenda of the Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council. So we support the immediate passage of this law, and we look forward to working with Congress for the bill. I would also like to add that the National Capital Accounting Roadmap, which was spearheaded by NEDA, PSA, and DNR, could be a good stepping stone for any discussions on this particular bill. We note that the NCA actually serves as an important tool to measure changes in the stock of natural capital and to integrate the value of ecosystem services into accounting and reporting systems for a given region or ecosystem. And from the government's perspective, NCA is a vital decision support tool as it can inform the formulation of development plans, policies, and programs, guide assessment of gains and trade-offs of development projects to manage the competing uses of our natural capital, and improve the reporting of the country's performance and monitoring of VNR indicators. So with that, Your Honor, we remain at the disposal of Congress for succeeding hearings or meetings that will discuss and improve on the bill for its immediate passage. Thank you.
Thank you. May we know from NEDA what were the initiatives from the national government insofar as our Economic Development Authority is concerned, including natural capital accounting as part of the national income accounting system? In short, when did NEDA start with this, and was this influenced or under the supervision of the UNC, which I read earlier? And what is it, to what extent did the NEDA actually implement it within NEDA and the other agencies of government? Just so that we understand when it started, how long ago. Can you listen when I speak, please? Yes, when it started, to what extent has it been implemented in government, where we are now, so that we can proceed? If NEDA never implemented it, so that we know the legislation is so important. If NEDA already started implementing it, then that's good. We're not starting from zero. So may I please be enlightened on NEDA's integration or mainstreaming of natural accounting? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. So the roadmap to institutionalize NCA in the Philippines, the document itself has already been published, and it's available at the NEDA website. And it identified actually that PSA, the Philippine Statistics Authority, will be the agency that will lead in the compilation of asset and flow accounts, such as mineral, energy, water, land and soil, timber, and biological resources. For DNR, it will lead the development of site-specific ecosystem accounts And the roadmap prioritizes 30 priority sites for ecosystem accounting. And I think DNR can also provide updates on the priority sites. I think they have already implemented some of the sites that are being looked at currently. And the Philippine Statistics Authority can also provide updates on the compilation that they have already been was able to already accomplish.
Yes, thank you for that. May I please be enlightened when NEDA started the natural resource accounting and which agencies of government did you collaborate with so that we have an idea when government actually started this?
The roadmap was just published last year, and it was done in conjunction with the DNR and the Philippine Statistics Authority.
You're referring to the PDP?
The-
My question is, natural resource accounting is not new to NEDA. So may I be informed, when was it initially started? And what programs or projects did NEDA do to integrate, to mainstream natural resource accounting, and where are we at? It's a very simple question for your agency.
Yes, Your Honor. It was started in 2014, and it's the Phil Waves.
Who is prompting you? Because we're speaking to an undersecretary and somebody is prompting you. May we have his name and his position if he is a director so that he can be acknowledged? That's why I expect people to come prepared to hearings. Can we have some respect for the work we do? This is so important. Yeah, may we have your name, please? Thank you for being here to prompt our undersecretary, who may be new in government. And we don't know everything. That's why I need to know when we started and what did NEDA do. And next time, NEDA must send someone who knows the subject matter and is prepared. That's why I always say this. Yes, may we have your name, please?
Good morning po, Madam Chair, Madam Senator. I am Julius Casabal. I am Chief of the Environment Division of the NEDA ANRES. ANRES stands for Agriculture, Natural Resources, and Environment Staff. So, ma'am, I know you are aware about the Phil Waves project. Yeah, it's a
Expecting to hear about Phil Waves project, which was not mentioned. I want to know more. I don't know if it's Phil Waves. It's called the Waves Global Partnership Program. I'd like to know, where are we at with this? NEDA and PSA. I will ask PSA also. I hope you know this. The evaluation of the ecosystem services of the Waves project. So I want to know, simple na naman, tinatatagalogin ko na nga. Kayong lahat na sa gobyerno, kailan ba nagsimula ito? Naiintindihan ba nyo ito? Ito ba'y nasagawa na? Kailan pa nagsimula? Ano ang mga programa, proyekto na ginawa nyo sa NEDA? Dahil kayo ang nasa buod nito. Turuan kayo ng turuan dyan eh. Please naman, kayo mga bata kayo, maghanda kayo pagpupunta kayo. Do your homework, please.
yes.
Do your homework. Be
Yes,
prepared.
Senator.
Look at the Secretary of Environment. She's prepared. The Climate Change Commission, they're prepared. Please, I hope the others are prepared. Let's do our job well. So, NEDA, I know, hindi to bago sa inyo. That's why I want to be enlightened. When did it start in NEDA? Let the Undersecretary answer. Yes, we recognize Senator Robin Hood Padilla. Thank you for joining me. So, please let us know kailan po nagsimula ito sa NEDA, and tell us about the Waves project, and tell us about the importance. Like I heard from the DNR Secretary and from the Climate Change Vice Chair, how urgent this is to our life. So, NEDA, as our economic planners, I want to hear from you. In short, without PENCAS, what are we doing? With PENCAS, how will life change an economic planning in our country? And when did it start in NEDA? Because you started it. How many years ago? How did it start? In what division? In what bureau? What line item in the budget supported it? Because I want to help you. I want to help NEDA. I want to be able to have an amendment in the budget for next year in case it is not in your NEP. Because I hope that this can be enacted, right? Because when I ask you these questions, you're doing your NEP now. So we want this, hopefully, nakanandyan na sa NEP, anticipate it to be enacted into law. Because I cannot imagine any human alive on this earth who would not understand this or who would not abide by it or agree to what we're discussing, right? So we have our chief economist. Very good. Yes. How long have you been with NEDA, Mr. Julius?
Since 2010.
2010. How about Yusek Uy? How long have you been with NEDA?
3 months po.
3 months. And
Senator.
before that, Miss Uy?
I was with the PCC, Philippine Competition Commission.
Okay. You're an economist or a lawyer?
I'm a lawyer.
Okay. So, you're an economist, you're a lawyer, put your heads together. Uulitin ko, takatanong mo ko, simple lang. Kailan ba nagsimula ang NEDA sa PENCAS? You know, if you did your homework, Yusek Uy, I'm sure you came from government, di ka pala bago eh. Before you come to a committee hearing, my dear, be ready. And
Yes, Senator.
This is so basic. If you did your homework, you would know when PENCAS started in NEDA.
Opo.
I want to be enlightened because I don't have the information.
So as
Can anybody in this room answer the question? When did it start in the Philippine government? If it started in NEDA, what year, what program, what project? Who is an expert in NEDA, in PENCAS? What did they do? How did it influence our governmental processes? What will life happen? How will life happen if you don't have it? And what are the economic indicators that will be affected by it? So short, paano magbago ang buhay ng ekonomiya ng Pilipino at ng Pilipinas kung meron tayong batas na ito? So that's my question to Yusek Uy, who's a lawyer, and Mr. Casabal, who's an economist.
So, Senator, the PhilWaves project started in 2014 to 2017. And under that project, we had the PSA to compile the asset accounts.
I actually,
Yes. Opo.
so, DNR, can you help me out? Secretary Loizaga, I simply want to know, when did we start the PENCAS? If not, I'll just Google it. If NEDA cannot answer me.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
and
thank
I-
you, Tony.
Thank you. I would
Save NEDA. Yes, please.
Madam Chair, I would just be referring to a presentation by the PSA on the efforts for natural capital accounting. They do have a presentation that cites that the NRAP, or the Environment and Natural Resource Accounting Project, began in 1991.
See, as far back as that. PSA, I hope you're able to answer that. Then I will call on you after. And I will not pressure NEDA if you're not ready for today's hearing. Or maybe I may, if you're not ready to answer it, but proceed, Secretary Loizaga.
So in the presentation of the PSA, Madam Chair, 1991 to 2000, the first NRAP, Environment and Natural Resources Accounting Project, was held. Between 1998 and 2001, NRA 2, the institutionalization of the Philippine NRA, was undertaken. I'm sorry, I just jumped one phase. 1995 to 1997, NRA 1, which is the Integrated Environmental Management for Sustainable Development Plan. 98 to 2000 was NRA 2, institutionalization. The fourth step was the benchmark survey for environmental protection expenditure, 1999 to 2000. In 2000, there was an international workshop on environment and natural resources accounting. In 2014, the WAVES project, Madam Chair. And between 2014 and 2020, the Philippine Economic, Environmental, and Natural Resource Accounting Project was implemented. That would be the extent of the presentation slide, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that. 1991, was it 91? So as early as 1991, there was also already a recognition of the importance of natural accounting. Correct, yes. So it's about time that we enacted this into law. So the WAVES project, perhaps now, Neda, because you were reading your notes, just put into the record the importance of the wealth accounting and evaluation of ecosystem services, or WAVES. NEDA and PSA were the implementing agencies, am I correct, of these projects? So this is a global partnership program to promote sustainable development by ensuring that the accounting of our natural resources is mainstream into development planning. So this was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And did NEDA actually do it? And then I go to PSA. How did you, so tell us about the WAVES project in simple terms, and how did NEDA mainstream it in our year development planning? Maybe a sample of a project where you mainstream PENCAS because you were part of the WAVES project. Or if NEDA did not do it, then just say so that we know how important it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. For the PhilWaves project that ran from 2013 to 2017, NEDA led the implementation with the Philippine Statistics Authority, the DNR, Palawan Council for Sustainable Development, and the Laguna Lake Development Authority as partner agencies in the compilation of accounts and policy analysis. So the PhilWaves used the UN SIA 2012 Central Framework and the SIA Ecosystem Accounting. It was actually the PSA that led the creation of the macroeconomic indicators such as the produced capital, comprehensive wealth, adjusted net national income, and adjusted net national savings. And PSA also led the development of the national level mineral accounts and mangrove accounts.
Could you repeat that? That's important. I will ask PSA. I hope you're ready to answer this. If not, you research on it. What were the two PSA-led programs in the WAVES project? Please, can you repeat that?
The estimation of the macroeconomic indicators, such as produced capital, comprehensive wealth, adjusted net national income.
Okay,
And
please take that portion, and NEDA, prepare to answer that in a hearing. Are you prepared to explain to us what that means?
not at the moment.
No, say it again so that PSA will be able to answer. Hinahon at sabihin dahil dapat maintindihan yan. Dahil yan ay parte ng proyekto ng WAVES where the PSA led it, correct? Can you say it again, please?
So the
Economic
macroeconomic
indicators,
such as produced capital,
capital, okay.
comprehensive wealth,
Comprehensive wealth,
adjusted net national income,
adjusted net national income,
and adjusted net national savings.
adjusted net national savings. If you're not ready to explain that to me now, be ready in the next hearing or TWG, because I want to understand each and every one. And PSA can perhaps, I just have a broad understanding of what you mentioned, but I want to understand. So these are examples of macroeconomic indicators that were part of the WAVES project that were mainstreamed by NEDA in the development planning? Or just examples, but not yet mainstreamed?
Not yet mainstream.
So never utilized?
Not yet.
Never.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Just so that we know. Okay, next, please.
Aside from the estimation of the macroeconomic indicators, the PSA also led the development of the national level mineral accounts and mangrove accounts.
Can you repeat that, please? Aside from the macroeconomic, what was the other program?
The development of the national level mineral accounts
National level mineral
and mineral accounts and
accounts,
mangrove accounts.
mangrove accounts. So were these mainstream in economic development planning? No. So these were just learned or discussed perhaps in the WAVES project, but never implemented? What was it?
Pilot projects.
Yeah, but they're already doing the asset account.
So it's not yet mainstreamed, but the PSA is already doing the asset accounts. So I think they can further discuss the details of what they've developed. But it started here, and then eventually with the roadmap, they're going to expand that the asset accounts compilation.
The macroeconomic indicators and the mineral accounting, including the mangroves.
Yes, po.
Can you say, was it mangrove accounting? No. Was it an inventory
Mangrove
of
accounts.
database of our mangroves? No. What was it?
It's the mineral accounts and the mangrove accounts, the development of these two accounts.
When you say, okay, help me with this to understand it, Secretary Loizaga. When you say mineral accounts, what's the other one? Mangrove accounts. When you say mangrove accounts, that means measuring our mangroves, a database inventory of our mangroves, right?
The physical basis, Madam
Physical,
Chair.
yes.
And then the actual valuation would then be the role of
Correct.
the PSA.
So it simply says a inventory of our mangrove resources. Correct? Yun lang. Oo. Kasi pinapaliwanag ko para everybody's on the same page. So, hindi pa yung valuation yan. Yes.
Madam Chair, if I may, we do have a physical basis based on remote sensing. And of course, some of these have been verified. However, the valuation is what is the challenge now, given that there are many dimensions to the valuation, including the potential for carbon sequestration. That particular area requires a level of scientific expertise that we are hoping to be able to access given additional support budgetarily.
But we have the physical accounting.
We have the physical accounting because of
Meaning we know where our mangroves are because
Yes.
of remote sensing.
yes. And then some of these, of course, have been ground verified.
Of course. And then the valuation, understandably, it's difficult to we need scientific templates, how do you call that? How to measure.
Yes.
Yeah, 1 square kilometer of mangroves, let's say in Giwan Samar.
Yes.
How do you compare that with the kind of mangroves size compare, let's say with Barangay Papaya in Nasugbu, Batangas? Ganon.
Madam Chair, in fact, we need to establish the condition of the specific
Yes,
mangrove area,
understood.
the species of the specific mangrove area.
And the kind of marine biodiversity that thrives at a mangrove area.
Yes,
And the
madam.
kind of mangrove species.
Yes,
Oo.
species. Yes,
Anong
madam
klaseng bakawan?
Yes,
Correct.
yes, madam.
Understood. I like to talk to you. You understand. You're able to answer me. Yes. You know, all government agencies must answer that way. She understands me when I ask. We proceed with PSA. So you were the lead during this WAVES project. Do you have an idea what it is? If you don't, never mind. We will have another hearing.
Yes.
I would rather you say you don't know or you're not prepared rather than, because I understand it's not easy.
Honorable Senator.
Unless you know it, I would be happy.
Yes, Honorable Senator, good morning. our journey in the development of the Philippine environment and natural resources started as early as 1991. And when we started that, we are still under the National Statistical Coordination Board, an attached agency under the NEDA. So we started first in terms of capacitating the technical staff, because this is the first time that we are doing the environmental accounts. So more of the earlier years were spent in terms of capacitating the technical staff as early as 1991. And this is under the project of the Environment and Natural Resources Accounting Project. And this is now using also the international guidelines of the United Nations System of Economic and Environmental Accounting. This is an international framework, and this is the Interim International Guidelines 1993. So after like 9 years, after the technical capacity building of the National Statistical Coordination Board as the lead compiler of the environmental accounts, this is also a project along with the DNR, with the NEDA, and other agencies that are producing the data. After that project, after 9 years, we saw that we are possibly ready to do a pilot estimation of the key resources like timber, forest, fish, land, soil, and water. So this is that was only a pilot estimation, trying to look at the data that are available, what are those gaps and how do we address these gaps. So this is another project under the UNDP, and we were financed in terms of looking at the data. Where are those data? How do we compile them? Put them in a framework of the UNCIA. So that's the second phase of possibly for 5 years. Then later on, we saw that I think we saw that it is now ready to institutionalize the PINRA project. So we have the executive order 406. We drafted the IRR, but
Which administration was this?
President Ramos?
Ramos pa.
Yes. So we have the executive order 406, but unfortunately, budget were not there. So we just the same, we continue the efforts of the National Statistical Coordination Board. It was in 2013. Then we shift to another project. This is under the World Bank, which is the Field Waves Project. Under the Field Waves Project, this is a global project consisting of 8 countries, pilot countries. For the Philippines, we were assigned to do, just to test whether we can do like a mineral asset accounts only for 4 mineral resources: copper, gold, nickel, and chromite. So this is just to test whether is it feasible to do the asset accounts. By asset accounts, we say to look at the inventory. What are the stocks at the start of the year? and then look at the changes that affects the beginning stock, and at the end of the year, you have done then the closing stock. We did the physical accounting of these 4 mineral resources.
Here was that. So you were able to do a measurement from the beginning at the end of the year, at least for 4 mineral resources. So
Correct.
you had the templates, the science, you know how to measure it aside from the physical inventory, but evaluation as well?
Correct, Miss Madam Chair, because we followed we have the guidelines under the UNCIA, and there were already some countries that has did the mineral asset accounts and also did the valuation. So more or less, we patterned some of our methodology. Data are the challenge, really. But we try to look for some proxy indicators how to go about the valuation. In the asset account, you will be able to look at how much depletion we have for the mineral. We are looking at mineral as an asset, as a resource that provides inputs to the economic activities, to the economic production. But in the accounting of the national accounts of the gross domestic product and gross national income, we are not accounting for the mineral resources because mineral resources is something capital resources. They are not part of the economic framework. So they are not included. Once we have valued them, we try to integrate them in the GDP only for pilot exercise for the first time. Looking at how, if you incorporate the value of the minerals, how much would be the gross value added of the mineral industry? Meaning, whether you need to deduct them. That means that you have the output deduct also as part of the intermediate consumption. That depletion rate of the mineral, then you have the gross value added. This one incorporating now the value of the minerals, which means that the gross value added as a contribution to the gross domestic product will be reduced.
Yeah.
So that's exactly how we did the mineral asset accounts under the field waves.
That is already PENCAS.
Correct.
What you just said is PENCAS, but this is a pilot project, and this is not done for every mineral or every year, right? It was only done for 4 minerals and for 1 year. But imagine if this is done for our forests, for our mangroves, for all minerals, for even the quality of our air. That's possible, right? That's so interesting. So the mineral that was measured, where should it be inputted in? It should have been inputted if we used PENCAS in the GNP or GDP?
It should be in the GDP.
Sa GDP?
Yes.
Okay.
But when you're computing for the gross national income, since the gross national income will start from the GDP, GDP less the net primary income, it also affects the gross national income.
So it should be considered in the gross domestic product.
Yes.
However, tell me the impact on the GNI, the gross national income.
Okay. It will affect the gross national income because the point of reference of the gross national income is the GDP.
Yes.
So if you have a lower GDP and you have the primary income from the rest of the world to and from the rest of the world, then it will also affect gross national income because of that factor of
Correct.
the GDP.
If it is not included in the GDP, what is the repercussion on the GNI?
If it is not there in the GDP,
In short, pag walang penkas, pag hindi, if you don't measure at all, what happens to our GNI? It's not accurate.
yes, this is one weakness of the
Yes.
GNI.
So
One limitation.
what will happen? This question. What if we do not measure, and we don't, because there's no law yet, it's not yet mainstreamed. If we do not input natural resource accounting into our gross domestic product, how truthful or accurate or correct is our gross national income? It's not accurate, right? As a statistician.
Yes,
See?
correct, Madam Chair.
See?
Except that
Yeah.
the measurement of gross domestic product only covers economic transactions, economic assets, never the natural capital. So the framework of GDP covers only the economic.
That's why it is a old traditional way of measurement which needs amendment, because how can you not include in the measurement other capital resources? I would loosely say it, pati yan capex eh. Natural resources, pag inuuka mo yung bundok o tinatapon mo ang basura mo sa tubig, o yung tubig, ginagawa mong lupa, nagbabago. You should input that, right? Natural resource accounting. And therefore, everything else would not be accurate, or your planning will not be attuned to the needs of the people pag hindi mo inaakma. Correct?
Correct, Madam Senator, because you are growing economically by this much.
Yes.
At the expense of the resources. They may be depleted, they may be fully degraded, but you are not accounting them.
Correct. And so, we're not saying it should contradict sustainable development, but at least you rehabilitate it, you prepare for it, and the possible impact of its degradation and depletion. And so, that's where protection, conservation, regenerative activities are done. So, we are actually not doing it correctly, to put it very simply, and not mindful of all the assets we have, which should be utilized sustainably, but we should know when to rehabilitate and to protect and to conserve and to regenerate. Tama?
Tama po.
Ay, nakakatuwa kang kausap. Sino ba ito? Naintindihan niya. Tika, patuloy mo. Tony, I'll get back to you. Sige. Pagtsagaan mo ko, I'm trying to understand everything. Continue what you're saying. And so,
Okay, so at the end of the day, the PENCAS will also allow us to see the real wealth of the nation.
exactly. That's why I
Right
always
now-
say, we're not a poor country. Ang yaman-yaman natin. Tama? Oh, sige, tutulungan mo akong sukatin ang ating yaman. Okay, continue.
Right now, from the point of view of the economic asset, we know how many buildings we have, how many cars we have, how many residential and so on. These are
How many flyovers we have, how many roads that...
Yes.
Yeah.
We have
Correct.
inventory of that available. At the same time, under the economic asset, we look at intangible assets. These are like patents, these are
That's part of our national wealth.
royalties and so on.
Yes.
So we can account them for now. But we do not have yet the total inventory, how much natural resources we have. In the PENCAS, we will be able to account them by the different resources that we have: forest, fish, minerals, water, and other resources, even the biodiversity Even the biodiversity is a part among those
Yes.
resources.
Yes.
So once we have them through the PENCAS, then we will be able to see the entire wealth of the nation.
Very good. You're able to explain the bill very clearly, at least to my mind, but I have more questions. Okay, Secretary Loizaga, you had something to, and then I will call Dr. de Los Angeles. No, is it Dr. Marian de Los Angeles? I believe is online. It says here that she was part or designed the WAVES program. She was with the World Bank at the time and was chief of party for NRAP after Secretary Loizaga. Then we have Dr. de Los Angeles. Thank you.
Madam Chair, just to build on what was said earlier by PSA, there are resources that can be regenerated,
Yes.
but these are time sensitive and these are very focused in terms of their localized risk. And so when we look at the value of our resources, our natural resources, we need to understand which of these areas